person who had been giving decisions every time, he did not have this wisdom. But when his son comes and he is to be punished, that is the time when the wisdom starts coming and he is starting up to appeal. The same thing is happening with Arjuna also. He did not have love for the Kauravas. And that is why he was not in the Vishada, he was not lamenting on the consequences of the war. He had no doubt about his strength and the strength of the other four brothers. He knew they were equally powerful. But he was doubting the strength and the potential of his own sons. Because from their side, the sons were also in the battle. If they will be killing the sons of the Kauravas would also attack their sons. And this is where the attachment was arising. And that is why the only person he had to appeal was to God. So he says to God, I would not like to go into this war, into this bloodshed, even if I get everything. But after getting that throne, will I experience happiness? Because my sons are being killed. So the attachment, the desire towards his near and dear ones was coming up in such a way. So here Arjuna is symbolic for the consciousness of those people who are trapped within their own desires and relationships. When there is a constant war between one's virtues and vices within the mind, then the mind gets exhausted and is not ready to fight with the devilish power any further. The intellect is no form to judge except to give up in front of the devilish powers. Especially when a person is going through long sickness, starts losing hope from life. And that is when he wants to give up. He does not want to struggle anymore. When a person is meeting constant failures, he does not want to go further with these failures, loses hope, and wants to give up in this struggle. When there are constant family conflicts going on, then also a person wants to give up. Or when there are so much of tensions accumulated that he is not able to cope up with the stresses, he feels as if he is losing. That is the time he wants to give up. He does not want to fight this battle. So this is what the state of Arjuna was. And at that time, what was the first thing that God told him? In the second chapter, he is given the knowledge of Sankhya Yoga, yoga of knowledge, the wisdom, the long-lasting eternal authority of the soul. So the essence of the second chapter is from verse 1 to 10, it's a dialogue between God and Arjuna in context of the coward attitude of Arjuna. From the verse 11 to 30, the topic of Sankhya Yoga, the body being the costume of the soul and the soul being immortal. From verse 31 to 38, the description or narration of the need to stabilize in the self-religion to deal with the war. From verse 39 to 53, the topic of Karma Yoga, yoga in action. And from verse 54 to 72 is the signs of a person with a stable intellect. Sthir Buddhi, Sthita Pragya. So what are the signs of a Sthita Pragya? That is given, that is described. So this is the essence of second chapter. And in the first 10 verses, when Arjuna is communicating with God, finally he surrenders. So Arjuna accepts the position as a disciple of the Supreme, and taking complete of him, request God to instruct him in how to dispel his lamentation and grief. This chapter is often deemed as a summary to the entire Bhagavad Gita. Here many subjects are explained, such as Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, and the soul. Predominance has been given to the immortal nature of the soul existing within all living beings. And in that, we find that Arjuna means today's human being, how it is compared in today's world, that the intellect is not able to judge and the mind gets tired, thus the individual is drawn to depression. Because there is no power within to direct or rule the mind in the right direction. A ray of hope is only possible when Supreme Intellectual Personality guides us. When the Supreme descends and answers the questions which are distracting the mind of an individual, and the truth is that we are souls. We are that conscient entity and not this body. This body is like a costume. So the body is the field to perform action, karma kshetra. Whatever seed in form of good or bad action is sown grows into a form of a particular sanskara, the personality trait. The expansion of this field are our senses. Human being is dependent on the three gunas, sato, rajo and tamo, to perform actions. He is not able to stay without action even for a moment. And this is why this field is called as karma kshetra or kurukshetra. And the knowledge or the laws and commandments of the war is given by God to Arjuna, where he says that it depends on the capacity of each Bharatvasi to tolerate happiness, sorrow, cold, heat, praise and defamation. The vices in the awareness and the attitudes make one vicious in such a way as when water would take its form as it is placed in a mold. This is a conflict between the field and the field man, in which the devilish traits have to be completely demolished and our state of awareness gets established in God. A stable person, that means a soul, cannot be possessed by his senses and vices, as he sees himself to be equal in happiness and sorrow, and he becomes worthy to attain the element of nectar, amritva, that is eternity. So here it is clearly mentioned, it's not a physical war, but the war or the struggle is when there is happiness and sorrow, where there is cold and heat, praise and defamation. So it's not a physical war where God inspired Arjuna to kill some people, to have a bloodshed. If God would give such inspiration, then if today's human beings kill people who have negative attitudes, who have done wrong, why did we put them in prisons? Well, if God has given this inspiration, why do we cannot forgive them? So this shows, when God clearly mentions, it depends upon the Bharatvasi of how much he can tolerate. So how much tolerance he has. And in order to increase this tolerance, it is said in the body, a human being has to pass through three stages: childhood, youth and old age. Similarly, to attain a new body is also a stage of transformation. Within that process, the soul is not destroyed. The soul is eternal, imperishable, indivisible, invisible. And that is when it is said the soul never dies and is never born. It is beyond birth and death, an eternal entity ever existing. The soul cannot be killed when the body is killed. The 5 elements of nature cannot harm the soul in any way. But the glow of the soul increases with virtues and dims with the vices. The soul is powerful when not entangled with worldly bondages and weakens when entangled in the worldly bondages. So it is said, it cannot be cut with the sword, it cannot be wet with the water, it cannot be dried with a fan, it cannot burn with the fire. It is beyond the effects of the physical elements of nature. The soul is imperishable. It is eternal entity, and we are all that eternal beings, eternal souls, spirit. Just as a person renounces the old costume with great happiness while wearing a new one, similarly is the soul too renounces the old body while taking a new one. This is an eternal law, that the one who has taken a body has to leave one day. The soul is immortal, but the body is not immortal. We keep on changing. Just as this costumes also, they get old, and when they start tearing up, we leave it with great happiness. Similarly, the body is also made up of the 5 elements of nature. So, by using it too much, it also wears and tears, and that is when happily we have to leave. But why do people lament when leaving the body? Because human beings know in today's world they have not performed such good actions as much as sinful actions they have committed, and so they have the fear of their own sins, and they do not know where it will take them. So they feel we are comfortable in this body, we don't want to go somewhere else. So it is the fear of their own sins that is coming in front of them. And that is when God says to Arjuna, "Hey Arjuna, according to the original religion of thyself." So which is that religion? Is it the religion that we have divided the world into, Hindu, Muslims, Christians? Is it this religion that God is talking about? No. The original religion of the self. The self is the soul. So what is the religion of the self? You are not worthy to fear, as there is no other more beneficial path than to fight being the embodiment of thy religion. But if you do not fight this battle, you will commit sin by losing your original religion and the fame. The prosperity within the soul is stable and imperishable. This is according to the principles of Sankhya Yoga, the knowledge and yoga. So the original religion of thyself, what is that? Everything has its original nature. The nature of water is coolness. We can heat the water. Once it is heated up and we leave it aside, it will come back to its original nature. Original religion is of coolness. The original religion of fire is heat. So everything has its original nature. So which is the nature of the self, the soul, the spirit? This religions that we have divided the world into, this is not what God has taught us. But the original religion of every human being is peace. Everyone is aspiring for peace. Everyone is aspiring for happiness. Nobody wants sorrow in life. What do we ask from God? Oh God, grant me peace. Oh God, give me happiness. Why do I want peace and happiness in my life? because that is my true nature, and I am comfortable when I am at peace, when I am in happiness. We never feel comfortable when we get angry. We never feel comfortable when we are in sorrow. So the original nature, original religion of the self is peaceful, happiness. Our nature is love. We are all aspiring for love, true love.